Heaven Official's Blessing. Chapter 200. Audio source: WuShoWorldAudiobook.com. Dominate heaven and earth. Divine being breaks through the kiln. Just then, the two suddenly felt a wave of tremors at the same time, and both their smiles faded, replaced by tension and guard. Xie Lian wondered with a bit of nervousness. What's going on? Is it this divine statue that's shaking? It's not going to collapse, is it? The sealed top of the kiln were million-ton rocks filled with evil after all. And if this giant stone statue was going to fall apart because it broke through the entrance, then he was going to feel remorseful. Don't worry, it's fine. It's the mountain that's shaking, Hua Cheng said. Sure enough, below them, a heavy layer of snow collapsed like a torrent, and some areas already have the body of the mountain exposed. It seemed something was about to break through of the kiln. Hua Cheng shielded in front of Xie Lian, and Xie Lian remarked, "It's by Wu Xiang." Of course he didn't believe that a punch by this giant divine statue could knock Bai Wu Xiang dead earlier, and at most it would make that creature falter for a moment, so Xie Lian was on high alert. However, not a moment later, both of them could sense scorching hot air come blowing in their faces. That scorching air erupted from the mouth of the volcano with a bottom that couldn't be seen, and there was the smell of sulfur. Xie Lian instinctively sensed that danger was approaching, and Hua Cheng also said darkly, "Gurgur, leave." Xie Lian formed a hand seal, then soon after, with Hua Cheng in tow, they leapt onto that giant divine statue's wrist and ran up its arm, stopping and standing their ground at its shoulder. That divine statue obeyed his command and took off with a wide giant step, going along with the rolling current of snow. One slide was several miles, and its snow waves crashed around its body. However, because both its arms were open, even though it was a body of 1,000,000 tons, it still maintained good balance. However, they only slid to halfway down the mountain before the entire mountain was quaking even harder, and the divine statue also looked like it was staggering from the tremors. Xie Lian and Hua Cheng gazed up, and heard a giant rumbling sound. At the peak of the kiln, a pitch-black pillar of black smoke blew out. This giant sound shook the heavens and the earth, plus that apocalyptic smoke pillar. Xie Lian was entirely stupefied. It only took an instant before the entire sky was enveloped by a thick black cloud of smoke. Within those sun-concealing black clouds, countless human faces, arms, legs, and other limbs were tumbling and entangling, exceedingly horrifying. Xie Lian had only ever witnessed a scene like this hundreds of years ago, and now, he was seeing it again. "That's..." Xie Lian gaped. Hua Cheng replied solemnly, "The souls of the dead from the Wu Yang kingdom." It seemed, every person of Wu Yang who were buried alive by volcanic eruption were all there. Suddenly, Hua Cheng alerted. "Gurgur, down below, about 10 meters away." The words only just left his lips before Xie Lian had already directed the giant stone statue's right hand to smash down. About 10 meters below in the snow, in that field of white, there stood the figure of a white-clothed man, and it was Bai Wu Xiang. He seemed to have melded into one with the snow, but he still couldn't deceive their eyes. Heavy, thick layers of snow blew like a giant white tsunami from that smash, but the strike did not hit its target. Since he had already fallen for this move in the darkness once, Bai Wu Xiang was naturally prepared. The white figure flashed, and in the next second, its form appeared at the knee of that giant divine statue. That giant stone statue didn't hesitate before it smashed at its own kneecap. However, the slap was still midway before Xie Lian snapped to, and gritted his teeth to exert force, forcibly pulling it back, thinking, "Phew, that was close." The sealed top of that kiln was forcibly broken through by this giant stone statue. So if Xie Lian allowed it to smash against its own kneecap, if he didn't control the strength well, then it just might lose a limb. Perhaps that was the reason why Bai Wu Xiang intentionally hopped on. Xie Lian instantly braked on this side, while on the other, Hua Cheng languidly pulled out the long and slender silver scimitar as he ordered Bai Wu Xiang. "Get the hell down." Bai Wuxiang looked up towards them. Hua Cheng said coldly, "This divine statue isn't for you to taint." Suddenly, Xie Lian exclaimed, "San Lang!" He pointed to above the summit of the kiln. There was something behind that pillar of black smoke that was also blown out. Something crimson and gold, flowing and burning. Lava. That crimson gold lava rolled and mixed with the black smoke, enveloping the skies and the earth, and flowed downwards from the mouth of the kiln. Using this chance, Bai Wuxiang leapt abruptly and disappeared in the snow. Xie Lian didn't have mind to catch him either, and shouted, "Run!" That giant divine statue heard his order, and took off in large steps, dong, 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 as it roaringly jumped down the kiln. Landing flat on its feet at the foot of the mountain, the ground moved, the mountain shook. However, it might be fast, but the speed of that lava and black smoke weren't slow either, and it was practically following right at its tail. After landing, Xie Lian didn't dare to stick around either, and directed that divine statue to stand up and continue to run while carrying them. As they ran, Xie Lian felt its speed seemed to be slowing down. While feeling dread and puzzled, just as he was wondering if he was just imaging it, Xie Lian suddenly felt his body pause, then along with the divine statue, he started plunging downwards. That divine statue actually stopped obeying his command and stopped bending one knee on the ground. After kneeling down, its body was also slowly falling forward, like it was physically exhausted and was about to faint. Xie Lian's heart instantly jumped to his throat. Oh no! It was going to collapse. And that fiery torrent of black smoke was going to catch up. Just then, Xie Lian suddenly felt something tighten around his waist. With a simple yank, Hua Cheng pulled him over easily, a hand hugging his waist, raising another hand to lift his chin before he pressed his chilled lips against his. Xie Lian's eyes bulged as a rush of cool and refreshing air instantly filled his lungs, flowing through all of his limbs, like his entire person had livened up again. This kiss was very short, and soon after, Hua Cheng parted his lips. "Gurgur, try standing up again." Xie Lian instantly snapped out of it and reformed the hand seals. And right before that stone statue was about to fall face flat on the ground, his arms forcefully reached out and supported itself off the ground. Then soon after, it rose to its feet again. Turns out, it wasn't that this giant stone statue appeared to be physically exhausted, it was that it really was physically exhausted. In order to control such a gigantic divine statue, the spiritual power required was insane, and that bit of spiritual power Hua Cheng lent him before had already been burnt out, so naturally it'd slow down and sway like it was going to collapse. Now that new spiritual powers were injected, it became alive again. And this time, it ran faster than before, its movements also more agile. However, Hua Cheng said, "Gurgur, run faster." Xie Lian also wanted to run faster, but he was also afraid that this controlling spell exhausted too much spiritual power, and he said uncertainly, "Will it be able to hang on if we go faster? What if spiritual powers run out?" However, Hua Cheng said next to his ear assuredly, "It won't, you just focus on running. Don't ever be afraid, I'm right here beside you." Hua Cheng just stood there behind his person, his hands supporting his waist steadily, but with just this person, it felt as if the entire world was behind him. Xie Lian inhaled deeply and closed his eyes. "All right, then." He extended his arms forwards and unleashed all of his spiritual powers, offering up the strongest of hand seals and shouted, "Run! Rumble! 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 Rumble!" That giant divine statue ran wildly, each step taking several miles, crossing over gullies in one step, flying over hills with another step, and sure enough, it left that black cloud and lava far behind in the distance. It really was a gigantic object that couldn't be ignored. With every step, rocks fell and boulders tumbled, exciting waves of strong tremors. Countless monsters and demons scattered throughout Mount Tonglu all felt the ground shaking madly and were all terrified. When they looked up, many could see the black cloud swirling and spreading in the sky, and while a little amazed, they didn't really care for it. They were in Mount Tonglu after all, so whatever bizarre sights that'd appear weren't anything rare. Weren't those resentful spirits inside the black clouds anyway? They themselves were creatures similar to resentful spirits. They'd seen it every day, so what was there to be afraid of? Yet, when they saw that giant divine statue of a martial god stomping past, they were all petrified. What was that thing? Instantly there were howling and wailing from all around. What a gigantic man! Ah! They had never seen such a huge statue before. It really was too terrifying. Xie Lian had wanted to detour around the royal capital of Wuyang at first, in case his divine statue trampled those old houses with 2,000 years of history into ruinous wreckage, but then he remembered something and asked San Lang, our General Pei, Lord Rainmaster, and the others near here. Yes, Watching replied. Xie Lian quickly called out, come back, something's been left behind. Let's pick them up and carry them away. Thus, that giant stone statue that had run past the target retreated a few steps. Just as it was about to turn back, Xie Lian suddenly felt his body shake, losing his footing, and his entire person was thrown in the air. Only in mid-air did he realize what had just happened. The divine statue had tripped and fell. Xie Lian and Watching landed steadily on the chest of the divine statue, and Xie Lian looked over as he tried to direct it to stand back up. What made this giant divine statue trip wasn't him but something else. A majestic mountain. Of course this big mountain was far from the size of the kiln itself, but compared to this giant stone statue, it was still much bigger. Xie Lian recalled clearly when they first came, they had never crossed through such a mountain. Thus, his sight went past this mountain, and gazed towards what was behind it. Sure enough, behind it stood two other big mountains of similar size. 3 large mountains blocked before this giant stone divine statue. Watching spoke up. Gerger, be careful. They are the guards of Mount Tonglu, old age, sickness, and death. Single quote. End chapter.